to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. First order of business tonight is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, 1/3/2023.
I move the minutes be accepted as written.
Second. Any corrections, deletions?
Jim, did you get that addition that added? Yes, I did. I did correct that.
Thank you.
Those in favor? Thank you, Jim. Selectmen's comments. Tom?
Yes. So the solar committee met, the solar ordinance committee met. It seems like a solid group, and they're going to meet every other Wednesday, alternating from the select board meeting until it's done. So I think in a couple months, 3 months maybe. The website is now been overhauled and it's now live. It had some problems when they were cutting it over, but they finally got all that figured out. So
So if I try to go on now, I will get a new one?
yeah, they fixed that problem they had when they were converting
All I
over.
was getting was a town seal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But what I had to do was clear my cache, my history, everything, and then I think that you have to do that as well. Because I couldn't do it in that right
So,
now.
it's
Clear
like-
your history, and then you do it. Go back into it.
When they converted our new website, they added, free of charge, this HeyGov ticketing system, so that if you want to report, hey, there's a pothole on Walker Road, and they take a picture of it, you can send it in through this system on our website, and the staff downstairs can track that stuff. I don't know, they did it without being asked to do it, so we
But
turned
it
it off.
doesn't go out
But
to
it's
the public
currently
like
turned on
Facebook.
right now. Yeah, it's not like Facebook. Last thing I have is something I wanted to, maybe we should add this on the end of the agenda, but Brian mentioned this a couple months ago, this idea of a public safety advisory committee, where we could have another citizen committee to act as sort of a sounding board to the public safety departments. So I'd love to see that happen, and whatever the board wants to do to activate that, please let me know, and I'll try to help make it happen. I've sketched out a draft charter for the committee, and I can circulate it and maybe get Brian and Sean's feedback on it, and then we can vote on it next time or something, or.
Yeah,
Do we need to talk about it later in the meeting or not?
I think you run by, what do you think, run the draft by, and then, get it finalized more, and then we'll,
Does that
Does that sound good?
discuss it?
yeah. And these are members from the public or whatever,
Yeah.
that's what you think.
Yeah.
People would, like the other committee, they would apply.
Yeah, well, I was,
No,
yeah, I'd like get 5 people that are
Yeah.
just citizens, and then have somebody from the select board, somebody from fire EMS to be in on the meetings as well.
Okay. Allison?
2 things. One is I wanted to thank Tommy for setting up the solar committee so quickly, expeditiously, and without any kind of difficulties. Second thing is that I went to a legislative breakfast at the hospital, and one of the things that came up where they expressed great appreciation was for the community transport program that we're working with EMS. I think I was, because I'm a selectman, I think I was the only one who knew about it, so the hospital told, was able to talk about it to the rest of us. But it's really filling, quite great. The other thing sort of related to EMS that I'm sure Brian knows about is that a Blue Ribbon Commission to study emergency medical services in the state came out last month. and it's talking about some of the things we already know about, right? Under, a difficulty in recruiting, pay, and so they studied it. They actually, one of the recommendations is $70 million every year for the next 5 years, and over half of that would go to existing services. I'm not exactly sure what the funding, how that would actually work, but would they give us money? Some of the money would go towards helping EMS services that are at critical risk of failure. So anyway, I can email this to you.
Okay, Dale?
All set.
All I have is, the last meeting we had was the discussion about with the attorney about the whole, with Ruth and all that, and so I think I was asked to contact Sightlines, because they've done a survey for the property down at the end. I did do that. They're recommending that the attorney and myself, or whoever wants to go to their office and talk about the survey work that was done on the property down there. And remember, it was about how they came up with the high tide, the low tide, all that kind of stuff. Also, Bruce Martinson, but it's his partner that actually did the survey work. They seem to know an awful lot about the history. If you recall, that was a question about how did they come to that.
Yeah.
So we might be wise when it comes time with Bruce money or whatever to retain them to do if you remember, the attorney wanted meets and bounds, and whether we have an article to discontinue the road. As the surveyor said, we're not really discontinuing the road. We're not giving any land to anybody. We're just going to discontinue the box culvert, right? Anyway.
Which has the effect of.
Yeah, it does, but no, you're not giving anything back to anybody. It's not
Right,
typical
right.
discontinuance, but anyway, so stay tuned, and I'll let you guys know. It won't be this week, obviously. It might not be next week, but their office is out in Brunswick at the landing, so that's all I have. Yeah.
I don't have anything. Public comments, now is the time to talk to us about anything that's not on the agenda. If it's on the agenda, please wait to come up. Debbie, anything? Nothing? Road Commissioner, Jack.
Yeah, do you have anything for us, Kim?
Yeah.
No, nothing really. The way the weather is acting and has been acting, we are probably going to be on a different schedule with our posting of roads, because we're getting such crazy weather. So I've already posted one that I know of, and maybe more coming up soon.
It's been really surprising how fast the frost came out of the ground.
But it wasn't a lot anyway. And then the rain. So I guess that's about all. Everything else is pretty good.
Anybody on the board have any questions for Jack?
So if you post them earlier, does that mean they get unposted earlier?
No.
Okay, so it's still, okay.
It depends. It all
Yeah.
depends on the weather does, you know.
Okay.
Obviously, we unpost when the frost comes out and the roads settle down. A key is when you see no more water coming out of the cracks in the road.
Okay.
When it's dry and the weather looks good, then we try to unpost. I mean, obviously, all this is to protect our pavement as much as possible. Because when they're soft, they get cracked up and broken.
Do we have a close of officers report?
So I can inject, I talked to Chris today. He will have one for the next meeting. He said it's been quite busy because the weather's, I think I told some of you, most of you, that it's been quite busy. The weather's been such that contractors and everybody's trying to do something. Trying to think what else, I don't know.
Okay.
I can say that he came to a planning board meeting, we really appreciated having him there.
Yeah, I think he's doing a great job. He's just, like Jason said, he had a lot of irons.
He had 17 calls in one day last week, and so it's just really.
Okay. EMS Director, Brian.
Start with a colorful handout. So I told the board, but I'd bring this, I had to miss the last meeting. It's just so calendar year calls for service. So we run, it's quite frustrating sometimes, but we run on a fiscal year and a calendar year at the same time. So the numbers, depending on which report I'm looking at, may be a little different. So this is calendar year, so January to December. Just shows a steady increase in calls for service. I know the board always asks, well, you're doing transfers now, so of course you're gonna see more calls. So you see that broken down, 911 response and transfers being in a separate column. Admittedly, under 2021, the public assistance number, I threw 10 in there, it's over 300. And that's because it includes all the COVID vaccines that we administered, either here or down in Pittsburgh. So it really, the public assistance number in 2021 is higher than the calls for service, so I adjusted those numbers so it doesn't quite look that askew. So the total calls is like 300, because some of these can be, 911 response and transfers are going to be two separate entities, but the public assistance, mutual aid, and standbys, those can be more than one category. So I think our total call last year was 344 total calls for the calendar year, and that is about a 20 call increase from the previous calendar year.
Brian, would it be possible for you to switch to a fiscal year like we use? It would be a lot
So, as I said, we run a fiscal year and a calendar year. However, if I'm gonna run anything, if I'm gonna come up with my own numbers and spend hours compiling data for you, that's the fiscal year. This is what I can run using our run report system. So that's why I give you this, because
Well, the
it's
fiscal year,
easier to run it, but the fiscal year, we do keep fiscal year numbers. It just takes a whole lot longer to compile those.
yeah, well, the fiscal year makes, I mean, the calendar year makes some sense, because as you put your report together for the town meeting, the town warrant, the town
Right.
report, it would be, it almost makes more sense to do that, right? Whereas if he writes his report next month, and like you wrote it last year at this time or whatever,
Right.
then you can at least say that from January.
But I'm just saying, for our accounting purposes, it would be simpler if there was a way, and if it's a hassle, it's a hassle, I don't expect you to do it.
You have always received both calendar and fiscal year from me ever since I started. So it's not asking you to do anything different. I've always given you both, because we keep both. The binders in there are kept on a fiscal year. So, and every call gets a calendar year number, and then in the top number of our call sheets, go back and write in a fiscal year number too to keep track of them. But if you want a better breakdown like this gives you, that's not gonna happen in a fiscal year.
So
Because that literally, we're going page by page, 360, 345, 350 calls, and creating my own spreadsheet as I go. This is data that I can pull from our loan reporting system.
Well, and this is also probably the way you report up the chain, right?
The state runs on a calendar year, so I have to report data to the state. I have to report regular, just call data to the state. Pediatric calls is its own entity that I have to give to the state, so it gets quite frustrating, but this is something that I had to basically compile anyways, so.
Would it be hard to ever add, this is great, but also add the transports and no transports? I mean,
That is not easy to do.
that's not, okay, I just didn't know.
I showed Tommy and I met on Monday, how difficult it is to create a report in the state system. And I'd be more than happy to show any of you that it is, you basically have to have an IT programming degree to understand. And Sean's used these as much before. It is not easy to.
Well, I didn't know if you just took you give us a report every 2 weeks, right? And you say that, right?
Yeah.
So you say in it,
Yeah.
transfers, no transports, so I didn't know if.
So you could go through the minutes.
Well, I didn't, or it's his report, so I just didn't know if you could, all right, just
I
ask.
handwrite them,
Okay.
and then they might get compiled into a folder. It's certainly possible. I can work on it. I know you guys want it, especially when we're doing transfers right now. I can certainly pull that for you. Add it to the list. It's fine. We'll hire an intern or something to do that for us. So for the last 2 weeks, 17 total calls, 9 emergency calls, and 8 transfers. today is the busiest transfer day out of any service since they started the community program. We started right out at 9 o'clock in the morning. They've been going straight. They're on their 5th transfer right now. We have 2 that got scheduled and canceled. So the transfer truck is very busy. Out of the 911 calls, there were 6 transports and 3 non-transports. Transport-wise, 3 went to Midcoast, 2 went to Maine Med, and 1 went to Miles, a mix of diversions and severity of calls. We used MC1 twice. Wiscasset was requested to the scene of the crash on the bridge, but canceled when the number of patients and the number of ambulances wasn't the same anymore. Bath came, they were not requested by any member of the fire department. I will not be paying that bill if Bath sends us a bill for it, because they weren't requested by anyone from the fire department. Our revenue to date, I looked at it today, is just over 35,000, so we are just a little over half the year. But with the transfers starting in there, we haven't seen any revenue from the transfers themselves yet. We know it takes 2 to 3 months for those to get going. So I anticipate us being closer to the 6-digit figure that we've run in the past than a 5-digit figure on that, would be my hope. And Allison, one question, since you brought it up, and I haven't seen, this is a big discussion in the EMS world, and I haven't seen an answer yet.
Oh, I thought you wanted the report.
Nope, I've read the report. The Blue Ribbon Commission mentions this $70 million. Did the governor put that in their budget?
I have not looked at the budget. I suspect that if it had been in the budget, because there's been a little bit of news in this, it would have been mentioned. But I will double check.
Because no one seems to get the answer to that.
It's a
when they ask the
question, yeah,
so.
it's a question that came up when I read it, that's for sure.
And I appreciate the thought of the advisory committee. It's something that I think is very valuable, especially with the changes that need to happen on the EMS side. And so hopefully we can get, I would hope that more people are concerned about EMS happenings than solar panels. So hopefully we get a strong
In a different way.
right. So hopefully we get a strong group of people that are interested in that and can help. I mean, I've got my own ideas. We on the ambulance, that are running the ambulance now, we all have our own ideas on where things need to go. Certainly appreciate having some citizens that are kind of helping us navigate the waters that we're in right now. Other than that, that's all I have. Oh, sorry, there's the first check for November, the transports, or the transfers with Midcoast, the first check for November came in. I'm assuming that's going to the rescue service account, because that's where all of our other revenue goes in. There seems, Wednesdays were picked because we have we know who's around on Wednesdays. We have basically a set group of 4 or 5 people that are always around on Wednesdays. That's why we picked that day. I'd like to, at some point, have a creative discussion on something to do for our staff that have been doing the transfers. Not everybody, because not everyone's shouldering the load, but those that have actually been doing the transfers. One-time stipends, bonuses, something of that sort with these funds. Because right now it's all going back into the rescue service account. I just want to maybe have maybe the board can consider being a little creative in that. In the level of work that's being done, the miles that are being put on the trucks, I understand is the maintenance side, but it's also a kind of a wear and tear on the crews. And because we never adjusted pay, we kept pay the same. That's kind of part of the agreement. Other services are doing certainly significantly more. And other public safety agencies have given one-time bonuses, stipends and such for certain special projects that get put out. And not just the EMS world. I can tell you in the EMS world, if you work at CLC Ambulance, you get 1% of your annual earnings as a Christmas bonus. And I can tell you that in December, Wiscasset Police Department gave $1,000 bonuses to all their full-time staff, and smaller amounts as they broke through was kind of a thank you to their staff. So I just, once we maybe are done with doing the transfers, I don't think it'll last too much longer. They're advertising for the positions right now. They bought the ambulances to start doing it on their own. But, so maybe once it's done and we kind of have a grand idea of who did how many hours and such, maybe we can be a little creative with that money that was brought in on that. Just a request for a discussion down the road and kind of asking the board to be open on that down the road. That's all I have.
Ryan, we're gonna be starting on our budget next month. What's a good night for you, for us to sit down and have a workshop to go over what you envision coming up for the next budget year? Is there any particular night of the week that works better for you?
Right now, no.
Does the Wednesday meeting night work out?
So, yeah, it's just, my wife coaches basketball in Cumberland, so it's a daycare function right now. So my daughter's out.
Bring her along.
That's been discussed. I don't know if that would be the right introduction to town politics for her. So basketball will likely end about the third week of February, and that's probably after that. If I have advance notice,
Okay.
and my daycare provider, my primary daycare providers are going on vacation for 3 months, so I'm just trying to keep that. It's not really vacation, they're just retiring somewhere else, I guess. So the more notice I have, the better I can try to make something work. I just, basketball.
When we get a schedule worked out, when we're gonna start working on the budget, which I wanna start doing early next month. And Sean, same thing, we'll work out a time and review, so we can meet with you. Yeah, all right, we'll stay in touch.
I'll try to be as flexible as I can, and if I need to.
Actually, one of the things I was gonna add to, oh, sorry, go ahead. Related to the whole community transfer things, is that we brought up diversion with this group at the hospital, and that's, obviously they said diversion has been a dirty word. Hospitals do not want to talk about that. And so one of the things that these transfers, this community, the local community, EMS stepping up, they have not, that's really made a big impact on the hospital.
They have been going on that.
I know.
Quite frequently.
They still are.
Yeah, but a little less.
Yes, and
That was
something.
my question too. I've heard that going on diversion quite often, really. Is
Yeah.
this not enough?
Well, they go on diversion because they have they have patients that they have nowhere to take them to. And the issue we ran into last week was that the crew doing the transfers the midcoast was on diversion starting at about 7 o'clock in the morning last Wednesday.
Yeah, they told us.
We didn't start doing transfers until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's a matter of finding beds.
So it's not a matter of moving them, it's where they don't.
Right, it's not a matter of whether or not you have a crew available to move them, it's whether or not you have a bed to put them in. So that becomes the issue. I would venture, and Julie can correct me, but I think have we done one to a hospital today? Or have they all been going to a nursing home or rehab center?
They're all going to a nursing home?
Yeah, so we haven't done a hospital today.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, we did one to Lewiston, Central Maine.
Okay,
That was
so-
the first one.
1 out of 5 is hospital, but the rest of them have been sending, which is rare. Last week, everything was hospital.
Yeah. But apparently the diversion's gonna, might be just like 2 hours.
Yeah, they usually say when they're going on, when they're coming off.
Yeah, they review it every, I think it's 90 minutes or 2 hours, they review it as to whether or not they need to stay on it. But I would venture, a day doesn't go by where we don't get notified that a hospital is on diversion in our transport radius.
I can't speak to diversion, but I can tell you from experience, having an operation a week ago Friday, that they push you out the door just as fast as they can. I mean, I slept all the way home in the
Yeah.
car. Okay? I mean, it literally, as soon as they can get you upright, you don't fall down, you're out the door.
But I still have an ID poll. No, too bad.
Okay, Sean,
I have a few things, I got my bills for you. You want to start with the door?
Yes, I think everybody's seen the proposal for the door.
Yeah,
It's right
I
here.
got it too, so.
So is this the door that hasn't been able to get fixed?
It's been looked at 3 times, it's got to get looked at again, it's been bouncing all day.
Right, so the door, yeah.
does this opener have a manual
Nope.
crank? So this is just, this is. I
None of
don't
them
think
have
it would.
No, but if you remember, that was brought up at one time
Yeah.
by the former chief, yeah, right. We're
So
okay.
anyway, the issue that the guy that came and, it's the same couple guys that come and look at it this time, he said there's not really anything they can do left to it. There's not any adjustments, I guess, I don't know if everything's it's just old, it's an old system. They put that new track on the bottom of it a month or 2 ago when they came. This door is crushing that track because it's driving the door down so high.
The opener is.
So the opener, so they're gonna have to put that new piece on anyway, so.
Yeah, we got about 3, right?
Say that
We
again.
have 3 doors total?
Yeah, three here, yeah. The middle one is the one that they're concerned about right now. That one's, it's whining quite bad right now, so I'm waiting to call you one morning and say, hey,
No, that's the empty bay though, right?
no, it's the middle bay.
Yeah, but it's empty. Isn't the first bay?
Well,
empty?
engine 4 is behind it.
Right, but the first stall's.
Yeah, the first door is there.
Don't use it. No.
Yeah,
So what, if he gets a running
No.
start?
What I know was, you don't have a piece of apparatus in the front there, that's the empty.
nothing in the front, but engine 4, that's the primary for engine 4. Yeah.
I don't see where, I think it makes sense to do this one.
Yeah,
And I think we ought to put in his budget to do maybe 1 a year until we get all 3 of them done. Be done with it. I mean, you know,
My vision?
if this one has failed,
Well, in,
you know,
Let me-
do we wait for the next one to fail, or do we get proactive and change them?
yeah, right, it's in the building, it's a building budget, yeah.
Are they all equally old?
Yeah.
As far as we know,
You know them probably better than I do.
They're not real old, they were put in 1980.
So I've got that. Those guys. And then Glenn, there's a few different requests there, I'll go over them.
So David, yeah, so real quick on the door though, if you look at the proposal, they obviously are gonna bring a scissor lift and all that, and a certain amount of time, is it smart to get a price for the 3 of them? Not trying to be crazy, but we're gonna pay 3 times the setup, you know what I mean?
That's a good point.
I mean, why would we, I mean, they already brought us scissor lift one day, I saw them, right? So if we keep paying for
I
all
wonder
this.
if they could do a little bit better if we bought 3 all at
Yeah,
once.
well, if they're gonna spend a day here and put 3 in, I mean, is that something you can get a price on?
I can, yeah.
Fairly
You want the
soon.
price for all 3?
I mean, they're saying that the price is only good for 5 days.
What?
Yeah, did you read that?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Tommy pointed it out, but it says at the bottom, the price is good for 5 days. So,
Get a price for all 3?
I mean,
And this is the building, this would come.
if we try to do it year to year, we're gonna either spend more.
I'm gonna say, do we have money to do it?
We do, we talked to Kim tonight, and we,
Yeah, get a price on having all 3 done. And we'll see if we can afford that, okay?
Okay.
And see if they can do any better. Okay, what am I looking at
Okay,
here?
what's the next thing you have? Or what's the next one?
fire
now?
tech and safety. then.
Fire tech and safety, that's, okay, so Mike, Glenn and Shannon, you Jason about the
Oh, yeah.
air packs.
Yes, okay, so let me, that's right, so Kim looked it all up, we had approved it at the special town meeting, you know, the air pack funding. It
Yeah.
appears, Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, but no air packs have been bought yet.
Correct.
It was something like, I don't wanna throw numbers out.
Yeah, I looked in the thing, we were gonna fund 2 of ARPA money and 2 were regular money, right? With
Well,
raising appropriate.
in that, but we also set a cap on fire, like at
Yes, it was 20,000.
$20,000 that we had said we, you know, Brian got some money, and for some reason, there's verbiage about $20,000 from ARPA for fire. So then the question came up, I already forgot the numbers, it was 12 for 2? 12,000 buys 2?
So
Oh.
they've gone up significantly.
Oh,
First,
right.
one on the hand right there, Jason.
Oh, geez.
That was only
That's the
5 days.
that's the 3 air packs.
23,000, okay, sorry about that.
Yeah,
Oh, geez.
that's separate, the other ones are separate, we'll talk
How
about
much
those
did we
after.
set
but-
aside from ARPA?
It's going on what you looked up, but it was,
Yeah, it's in the
she said, she has it written down that there was so much for,
downstairs.
Yeah,
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 you know,
I
like-
remember, I just,
yeah.
what did you just say, 20?
I think it was 20, but it might have been a few dollars more, but I don't know.
Yeah, so the air packs have gone up significantly.
But it was, we were paying like 12,000 for 2, or, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we have the money for this or not? That's the big bottom line. They've got 20,000, you think is what we have set aside?
Well, 1 second.
I know.
Sorry, Jim. That's all right. Sorry, why don't you explain the next one? Well, we
Okay,
All right.
so the next one, I'm looking for approval to order my 3 sets of gear that we order every year.
can- And you have money for that?
Yeah, we
You
have,
have that in your budget?
yeah,
Yeah, so this is a purchase order?
Yeah.
All right.
I would move we approve that one.
Okay.
Second.
Those in favor? Okay.
and then the next two that you see there, if you look at the bottom of those quotations, David, below the total, you'll see I have a couple minuses.
Yep.
This is the grant funds.
Okay.
So this is, part of my grant for the Forest Service was 2 pagers and 2 radios. The matching portion of the grant, the state will give us 600 for radios. Then for the grant, what do you call it, account gives the other 600. And then the bottom number is what's left for the fire department to pay for that.
Okay, so the grant match, who's matching it?
The grant, Kim said the grant fund.
Out of our
Towns.
grant?
Yep.
Okay.
So, knock $1,200 off that quote, and we're left, the fire department's left with $2,400 and 90 cents to pay, or $2,400.
The bottom line is that you need $2,490.80.
Yeah, and I have that.
You have that, but it's only 600 from our matching grant money.
Yep,
Is that correct?
Yep.
I move we approve that then.
yep.
Second.
Those in favor?
And the last one I just tacked on, just so you can see it, the state approved $385 matching for each pager. As you can see, pagers are actually a bit cheaper than that, so it's not gonna cost us a dime.
You need $0 from us on this one.
Yeah.
I'll make
Okay,
that
now-
motion.
But there's no percentage, right? It's all value, not a percentage.
Dollar
right?
value,
Alright.
yeah.
No motion is necessary.
No motion is necessary. All right.
Yeah, so that's that.
We can research that, Kim, if we can't find it.
I know, I
remember
know
you-
it's in here.
You had to look at the meeting minutes and all that, if I recall.
Right, because I don't think it was in
Yeah,
there.
well, remember was it 20 or 26? Remember that? We had that number?
It was 20,
It was 20, okay.
it's 20,
All right.
but I know that we had allocated so many
We,
air
so,
packs.
so if you look at that, though, there's no article. So,
We didn't do an article
no,
on it?
because
No, we did it at special town meeting.
No, yeah, so wait a minute, so there's no article this year to raise money, and that's where the conversation started, because we were using ARPA money.
Yeah.
If you look in the back of the book at a year ago, you'll see
Yeah.
we did raise money. The question was,
So we didn't spend any of the money we raised a year ago? Is that what you're saying?
no, we did. So where it started is this year, there's no article for air packs, because we talked about using ARPA last fall for it. None ever got bought. But if you look in the previous year, you'll see that we did buy 2. So they have this, remember the regimen of doing it? We said, great, don't put it in your budget, we'll use that. So the question is, does anybody remember the exact amount of money that we want to use from ARPA for that? Are we going to go buy 2, or are we going to try to buy 3? If we buy 3, you don't need a budget article this year.
Not for air packs.
Right, so that's why we're doing, you see what we're
Wait,
saying?
no, 3 was, I thought 3 was like 23,000.
It is, but if we funded, if there was a way to fund them with ARPA money, he won't come to us with a budget article for this coming year,
Yeah, it's gonna take me forever.
because they keep going up.
Yeah.
So that would get them all new, right? Remember the rotation plan that Mike had put
So
forth?
these would be for this year, you wouldn't need any.
You won't need any extra.
We haven't bought any yet with that ARPA money
Right,
either.
okay.
So we saw that the other day in the expense detail, we haven't bought any air packs
Right.
in this whole calendar year, I guess you could say. So if we buy 2 and we have enough money, then he's gonna have to ask for 1 with, in the budget, or do we?
Yeah.
Can you wait just a
Yeah, that's fine, yeah. I
Just
just
do a little
wanted to-
research.
Is that
I'll
quote
find it
only good
tomorrow.
for 5 days?
That's showing. No, what happened was, she and I looked it up the other day, and kind of went through it, and we found our
So basically, we're pretty sure we have $20,000 to do this, so we'd have to come up with another $3,634 to do it, right?
Right, or do we want to just, was the wording such that we can just use the ARPA? Or, remember we put together that whole price tag?
Right.
It was 50 for
Yes.
culverts, and it was X for this,
Yeah.
so much
And
for,
it was
you know,
20 for fire,
So
it was 20 even over.
yes.
roughly, what do we have left in the opera right now?
I couldn't tell you right this moment.
David, it's a guess right now, because if you remember, there's 100 going up for the rebound, right?
Yep.
All the culvert money hasn't been done yet, he hasn't used his money yet.
Yeah,
But
we have the camera, I have to discuss the
Cybersecurity.
cybersecurity tonight, so yeah.
We still had
I
ongoing,
can give you an amount tomorrow.
Is it safe to assume that we'd have the $3,000?
Yes,
That is true.
yes.
Then I think that's it.
We're not going on nickels and pennies.
All this is gonna do is eliminate more increases in it and having him to put a budget article next month for this.
I think
But what I'd
it's-
like
I
to
think-
say is, because when I set the ARPA fund account up at the bank, I put it in a savings account that had the highest interest. So we do not have to claim anything back to the federal government for the interest. That is ours to do whatever we want to with it.
This quote is valid for 15
What's the
days.
interest?
So can you wait till our next
8.
meeting?
It's high, yeah,
Okay.
it's very high.
So why don't we do that? Why don't we just take this up at the next meeting? The
Yeah.
quote's good for 15 days.
Okay.
We'll take it up at our next meeting,
Yeah.
and by then we'll have, and I'll give this to you, Kim, just, if you bless it and say that we've got the money to pay for it, we'll do it.
Okay, we've had 6 calls since the start of the year. Obviously that bad accident that Brian mentioned. Decent turnout for it, so. The only other question I had was anywhere on the heat?
We sent in our deposit, signed the proposal.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything.
They loaded the new heater on the boat in China.
And it must be a sailboat.
So, they're waiting to get the boat full before they leave. We don't know, Sean. It'll show up when it shows up, you know.
If you get bored, call Dead
If you want a
River.
wood stove put in, we can put it.
Yeah.
That's good, the fire.
So is that quote written in stone?
It is, a deposit was
Oh,
sent
yeah,
in.
we've already
approved it.
given them part of the money up
Yeah.
front. They can't renege now.
And the prices change, it's all,
Yeah, no,
that's how
no.
we get it.
No, that's what it was, Dale. We voted, we sent in the third or whatever. The trouble is, you
The
know,
other one's still working. It was working the
Oh,
other
yeah,
day. when I
that's
was
working.
there, so.
we're scheduled for like, they say mid-January, but you know as well as we do that everything's fluid.
That's all we can do.
That's fine.
Okay. Anybody have anything else for Sean? Thank you. Old business, there's nothing?
Actually, yeah. So I know we talked about this before, for ARPA funds being used for a new server. So I asked for another quote because I think it's been a year or better, so. There is the quote from Burgess on a new server and cybersecurity.
Do you remember what that number was?
Last time,
No, what we put forth from ARPA towards that? I know we put, no, I just,
Yeah, I mean,
trying to see what we budgeted or
I
thought.
go downstairs and pull it.
No, it's all right.
What is it?
I know,
Oh,
that was higher than what it was. I
That
could have
is-
sworn it was 7,000
That's what I
last
recall.
time.
I recall around
We
7,000.
should have jumped on
That was
that one.
10,400.
Yeah,
But is this with Sonic Wall
Yeah.
Network Security Fund? Dale, would you tell me what that means? Oh,
so before it keeps continuing to climb.
yeah, that's the trouble with all these prices.
So I want to say, I think we estimated like 7,000 or 8,000 for cybersecurity. Because with the last quotes, and now this is at 10, so.
We did agree to do it.
I don't see where we have any choice. I mean, if the one down there
Right.
fails, we're up the creek.
But I do have extra funds in my.
You do, Kevin.
I seem to always have extra money in my budget.
You're over budgeting.
No, I just know how to spend wisely.
Well, so if we go over the numbers that we have allocated for ARPA, do we have to have a special town meeting? Do we?
No, that isn't what I recall we did. If you remember, we had a whole list
Yeah.
and we threw out ranges of numbers, but we got approval to use them for
To
those
use,
purposes.
Right, so what if we use more?
Select
Like,
boards,
But we didn't put any dollar figure
Yeah.
on it. We just said that we
We
needed to buy a
didn't?
new
We
server.
don't.
We didn't say
So,
what the
okay.
server was gonna cost.
We
So-
did
So
look-
we just sort of did it internally?
Yes.
This is what-
That's right. What we were being careful of though is if there's 50 or 75,000 left at some point, we gotta deal with this whole broadband thing or deal with this other thing, or we're not done yet, you know?
Right.
But she's right. We never put dollar values,
Okay,
because if you remember, we didn't have the exact numbers.
right,
But it was to use it for that.
okay.
I mean, I honestly, I feel like.
Okay, well then I feel like we.
Yeah, I feel like we should do that. We should do the 3 airbags and
Okay.
maybe we already just agreed to that. Okay. But
I agree.
we're just hurting ourselves because
It just
prices.
seems like, it just seems like every time we get a price from these guys, it's just, it's so much much more than you
Have you ever,
expected to
have
be.
you ever heard of a company saying the price is good for 5 days? I mean,
So a motion to buy a new server would be in order.
I got one question for Kim. Does this include them doing the work to transfer the data and all the assets to the new device?
Yes. Yes.
I would move that we do that with ARPA funds and do the 3 airbags. I feel like whether it's 20 or 23, the price increases are too difficult to, and you're not gonna have anything this year for airbags.
Not fair, but
I mean, it won't be.
Is there a second to that?
Yeah.
Okay, those in favor of doing both the FX and the server? Okay. Go ahead, Laura.
for me.
All right, anything else on the old business?
Yes. Tony was in yesterday and we talked, he asked if we had sent that main connectivity grant agreement to Kristen. I had forwarded it to you guys in the email and asked, and I never heard anything from anybody. So here's the agreement. Do you want Kristen to look at it before acceptance
Do you feel that it's
or?
necessary?
Well, it's a boilerplate agreement that is probably
Based
similar
off of the
to the
ARPA
ARPA stuff in the past, so.
And this is the $10,000.
Just for the
Yes.
10,000 grand.
Which
and
we
those
not get the
legal
money, but we
services.
can use the services.
But I have a question because it says the start date is December 1st, but the end date is June 30th. So if we don't have a contract or anything, I don't understand that end date.
I think it's just, they're gonna give us a check for $10,000 and we're
We
gonna
can-
use whatever we want and give the rest back, I guess.
I don't
Okay.
think they're gonna give us money. I didn't get the idea they were gonna give us money. I thought they would give us that much in service, like
It's
we
both.
would have to.
It's both, it's actual money for all the outreach work, and then we have access to a lawyer, so like if we need legal help to write the memorandum of understanding with Consolidated for something, they will cover that. We won't have to hire our own lawyer.
Over and above the 10,000?
Over and above the 10,000. That's my understanding.
Okay.
So your recommendation is to sign this?
Yes, yeah, and it's required electronic signature, so it's basically, we have to, I don't know who would be the signer, so Kim would be you or David, I don't know, but we have to send them a message so that they can send the Adobe sign.
Sign you doc, whatever.
Okay.
Are you making that a motion?
I move that we sign that contract without it being reviewed by Chris.
I'll second that.
Could amend that motion to that we allow Tom to sign it.
Geez, 2 or 3 weeks into the job.
Okay, I withdraw that, I was just joking. So let me wrap my head around this. This is a grant of $10,000, right? So, and we have to match that?
No,
There's no match.
no match.
All we're doing is putting a hand out asking for 10 grand.
This is 10 grand of ARPA money for us to basically communicate with the town and do whatever it is we need to do to get prepared to implement the broadband construction, whatever way it's going to happen for the town.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Those in favor?
That was what you referred to in the previous meeting.
Right.
That was the
Yes.
10,000 you referred to at 5 o'clock.
Anything else on the old business?
No.
New business, ARPA carry forwards.
Yes, and this might be a moot point, but there was a couple of emails that went out on the listserv through the town administrators, managers, that if they had warrant articles last year, and if they needed to create a new warrant article to carry any ARPA funds forward. And Jason called and he's like, I think the way that we worded it in our article, that we're safe to carry things forward without having to create a new warrant article.
Yeah, my logic on that was we had a town, we had a warrant article to accept the funding, remember? We had the warrant article to use the funding. We have the auditors who have already carried the money. We already did it one season earlier.
Yes.
We did it last year, and now we did it this year. So they didn't say it was an issue. I don't think it was an issue. but-
It's no different than the carry forward that we have with the
Right.
money that we get for
Right, I think.
planning, that we carry forward every year. We never use because we don't do any comprehensive planning.
Right, I think-
But still, we carry the money forward every year. I don't see where it's any different than that.
Well, I think you're right, I think, Kim's right, we had the wording to say such, and then we have the wording to give us authority to carry forward, or I don't think other towns have that sort of language.
I don't think we need to do
Okay,
anything.
perfect. So just
Thank
trying
you
to
for pointing that out.
make sure things are good.
Anything else under new business?
Well, you had already mentioned it once before. When do you want to start getting together and do the budget?
I think we should start before our first meeting next month.
Before, in
Um,
January?
Like earlier in the meeting night.
So our
Oh.
next meeting is the first.
The first is.
Yes.
First of February.
That's Wednesday, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So why don't we plan on starting at 5 o'clock that night?
Or 4 o'clock.
You want to do 4 o'clock?
Well, and we
I can be here at 9 o'clock.
No, I guess it's up to you in how much, do you send out your information for, I mean,
Well,
So the library will
Well,
be ready to meet
the
with
first
us.
night, we
I've already
usually
sent
do all
out
the
the donation
boilerplate.
requests.
okay?
The library, they just show up, and so I'll let them know that
Well, we
we're,
should set a deadline
We
for
have to.
everybody to get in a
Yes.
request. send it
but
out,
they
all
always
the
want to have a
committee
meeting
heads
with
and everything
you
else.
guys anyway.
Yeah.
And
But
then,
the first meeting, we usually just do all the boilerplate stuff. but we
yes,
don't- we
so
don't need
I
anybody
say
else here.
4:30,
4:30.
4:30,
Okay,
an hour and a half.
yeah,
So we
and
can go
we can
over
work on a lot of your stuff, right?
most of everything,
Yeah,
yep.
I know postage is going up.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
February 1st.
February
Sunday.
1st, 4:30, first budget meeting. And this is just because we're starting that, just to notice to everybody who's on any committee, or to start getting your report submission for the town report. Allison?
I knew that was coming.
The written reports, and then,
And we also need to think of dedication and the Spirit of America Award.
Yeah, actually, I just talked to the Spirit of
So-
America guy, he now has my home number.
And the solar committee, we should have some kind of a report for this year. I mean, I realize they won't have much to do, but they could just say that they are organized and ready to go.
did we kind of confer on the Spirit of America person?
You
Wow.
guys talked a little.
We
Well,
haven't yet.
No, but remember we talked about maybe the person that did all the work at the old townhouse, or no, is that, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with
Oh,
that.
wait, we got people back here.
You want to ask, you want me to
I'll
ask?
ask you, yeah. Go ahead. This gentleman's asked if you set a date for that meeting.
That's a good.
It's a good question, good
Yeah,
question.
see?
See, I don't have.
Answer is no.
The answer is no. It's going to be the second Tuesday of the first week of,
The last month of the spring.
should we do that
Well,
while we're right
You
here?
mentioned April.
I would like to do April.
Kim's good guys, are we still doing Saturdays, right, doing April?
No, we did
We
Wednesday.
Oh, you're right, we did a night one, we did a night
Yeah,
one.
we're doing Wednesday nights.
You're right, you're right.
So
Don't we
what's,
alternate
what's,
though? I thought we
I
alternated.
thought we alternated.
We only go by public input and they don't.
Yeah, the people that vote say, I want to keep
No,
it
no, no,
Wednesday
make your
night
mind
are the
up.
ones who showed up.
Well, the trouble is, if we do it Wednesday night,
what's the last Wednesday night?
Allison's the door, you get that calendar
The
too.
26th?
26th?
Is there anything,
Preston, is that a holiday, is it a special day?
Not that I'm
anything
aware
special
of.
about the 26th
Not
of
that I'm
April?
aware of at the moment, no.
Unless there's something happening at
By the
school.
time you get there.
Right. Was it, yeah.
That's right, it
Take us
was.
to school.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we'd have to-
Wednesday, April 26th.
Tentative on the school, right?
And
Okay.
spring
All right,
break is
so
For the
really
gym,
short.
I'll have to reach out to Jason, Libby.
So we have picked a date, tentative.
Tentatively, April 26th,
Tentatively.
Wednesday, 6 o'clock,
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock?
At the school maybe.
Yeah.
in the gymnasium, if we can get it.
So one of the, I might not be here for that meeting on the first. Rob's having surgery and I don't know when he's out, but if I can, I'll be here. But I don't think you should change it because of you.
Okay. All right, anything else? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
There you go.